Hello knitters, Barbara Benson here. I'm an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. If you'd like to know more about my knitwear designs, please check in the description below, and there you will find a link to my Ravelry page where you can get one of my patterns to knit up for yourself. Also in the description below, you will find a link to the Watch Barbara Knits Facebook group. We'd love to have you come over and join us so we can continue the conversations that we start here on the YouTube channel. And always, I like chatting with people in the comments, so please feel free to talk to me there. We have a swatch lab today. I'm really excited about this, but you know, why make a video if I'm not excited? Somebody should go back and see how many times I've said I'm excited about this. Swatch labs are when I take a new to me yarn, sometimes they're brand new yarns, sometimes they're just new to me, and put it through its paces. I want to find out what kind of pattern it might like. I block it, I knit with it, I see how it knits, I have a little conversation with it, and then I share the results with you. Today I have, and I'll show you, it's from Bijou Basin Ranch. I'll let you know they sent me this yarn, but I am not being compensated in any other way other than getting the yarn to do this review, swatch lab, experimentation, mad science, whatever you want to call it. And I have already recorded the swatch portion, and one thing I couldn't remember is the name of the color, because here is the gorgeous yarn that I got to knit with. It is Gobi. It is a camel silk blend, and it is part of the colors. It's the Valkyrie series, which is awesome. And the one I picked out is called Gold, G-O-L-L, but they have a lot. It was really tempting. E-I-R, it's purple. They have a lot of really beautiful depth to them, and I wanted to show you they are not like completely solids. There are some variegateds. If you make sure you click on the link in the description below, and you will go to the Bijou Basin Ranch website. There are variegateds, and then they have a series of these beautiful semi-solids, and they are semi-solid. They're hand dyed, so there is variation to them, and it's just here. You're gonna go ahead and see the swatch, so it's not just a solid. I mentioned in the upcoming portion that I think these would be good for color work, and I do. There's some beautiful colors, and the nature of the yarn itself, where it doesn't have like super duper stitch definition, and the camel brings a little bit of fuzz to the party, I think would make for beautiful color work. But you would need to work at on the tighter end of the gauge. I could see beautiful color work socks in this. I could really see, and I do, one of the swatches is at a sock gauge. The silk in this, so it's mostly silk, is going to bring a lot of strength to the party, and then the camel brings softness, and I think this would make a wonderful sock yarn. And I can totally see like those knee-high socks. It would just be stunningly beautiful if you ever had the urge to knit one of those. These would be incredibly luxurious. Sometimes trying to knit socks in a luxury yarn is a challenge, because most of the luxury yarns that are really soft aren't particularly strong. They're very delicate. So knitting socks out of something that is softer sometimes really doesn't work out. They're not functional socks, but the silk in this is going to bring a lot of strength to the party. So if you wanted to knit yourself some luxury socks, I think this yarn would be a great bet. I also think it would make for absolutely awesome shawls and garments, and really it is beautiful. Considering what it's made out of. So of course, I don't know that it's not going to make like a worsted weight like Erin Fisherman's sweater, because that's not the kind of yarn it is. But it is beautiful yarn. I thoroughly enjoyed knitting with it. I blocked it very assertively and it held up to that with no problem. It was a wet block. So again, you got to hand wash it, obviously, but it did fine. There was zero running of the dye when I did the soaking. So that is probably also a useful piece of information. And hopefully I'm going to go to close-ups on my hands so you can really see it as I walk you through the different things for more helpful information, hopefully. We have Bijou Spun Gobi, which is a 65% silk and 35% baby camel, which I'm super excited because I've never knit with camel before. Now, it is from Bijou Basin Ranch, and they're really well known for their yaks. That's why they have this cute little yak here. But they are also branching out into all different kinds of interesting exotic fibers. And by exotic, they pretty much mean not wool. I mean, they're not sheep. I mean, there are sheep involved, but it's the camel and alpaca and yak and cashmere and all those kinds of fun things. The non-wool standards. Now, we have 435 yards in 3.45 ounces, which is about 100 grams. It says 6 to 8 stitches per inch, size 1 to size 5 U.S. needle, hand wash, cool, dry, flat. And they're in Elbert, Colorado, product of China and USA. Now, you're really never going to get away from China because, like, the camels, that's where they live. So while they might do a lot of it in the United States, there's not a whole lot of camels in the United States being grown for fiber. And I did a little research, and it's the camels that have 2 humps. So that's super cool. But again, so we've got mostly silk, well, a majority silk, and then some camel. Let's look at the yarn itself. So here's the yarn. It is absolutely gorgeous. A very rich dye. Now, I believe that camel itself isn't really white. It's usually like a tan or something. So that's going to add to your richness. Let's look at the structure of, let's get him out of the way. Focus for me, please. The structure of the yarn itself. It is a plied yarn. Let's do our stretch test to see how much floof is involved. If I stretch it, it really doesn't compress much. I mean, it comes down a little bit, and that is probably due to the silk. Silk is not known for being particularly floofy. And while it is plied, it is not like a tight ply. It's nice. Let's tie out. How many plies do we have? Let's tease these out. We have 3 plies. Now, it is not that easy to do. I did this before so you guys could see it. So don't be worried that this is going to like fall apart on you. But I wanted to show you it is a 3-ply yarn. And it's got a gorgeous sheen. And that is going to be the silk, but also probably the camel is bringing some of that to it. I wanted to try this gold because I just think it looks like it's gold. I mean, it's not yellow, it's not orange. It looks almost like metal. So it's absolutely beautiful. It is soft, but not crazy soft. And again, that's the silk in it. The camel is going to bring softness and a little bit of fuzz, but as we saw, not a huge amount of floof, so you're not going to have a huge halo, and it's going to bring warmth. It's one of those fibers that has a really fine fiber, but that's super, super warm. Now, I decided to do something a little bit different, and I made 2 swatches because it said size, size 1 to size 5 on the needle size. I decided to try both. So let's start with your tiniest tiny needle, size 5. And what I started out with is a little bit of stockinette. And then I went into a little bit of texture, did some cables, and then some lace because I like to see what the yarn likes. You'll see that the texture is here and it brings some fun to the party, but because of the shine, it's not super, super visible. I'm really going to chalk that up to the shininess of the silk and possibly the camel. So, like, if you're going to do something that you really want the patterning on the texture to stand out, this might not be your best choice. That's not to say you shouldn't use texture, because I think it does. It's really nice. Now here's our cables. Let's see if I can zoom in. There we go. I did a little 2/2 and then there's a 3/3 because it's such tiny, tiny, tiny stitches. I wanted to see how the bigger went out. And it's holding the cables nicely. It's not a super stitch definition kind of yarn, so the cables aren't gonna pop up like crazy. Let's see. You can see they do come up a little bit, but they're not like super poppy, but they hold cables just fine. So I would totally say this would be great for cables, but it's not gonna be like crazy cables. And then we've got our lace. Because it's the silk holds lace beautifully. Now because this is on a size 1, it's not gonna be super, super open simply because of the stitch size, but it holds it beautifully. And because the Camel is not super, super fuzzy, I mean, you can see a little bit of fuzz there, but because it's not super fuzzy, it's not gonna interfere with your lace much at all. So that is what the whole swatch looks like. And what we need to do is compare it. This one is on a 1 and this one is on a 5. Now you might think it's weird that they would list such a range, but what I would tell you is this is your sock gauge and this is your shawl gauge. And what that's about is it's about drape. So if you pick this one up, you can see, I mean, it flops over. It's not stiff. It's not going to stand up by yourself. But if you pick this one up, look how that, look, it just completely, I mean, it just flops. Whereas this one, it has a little bit more integrity. So this is going to be something that's really good. And this denser fabric, and you could probably even go smaller if you want, is going to be good for a sock. Whereas if you were knitting a shawl or a garment that you want to drape more, then this is going to be a better bet. Here is the swatch on size 5s. Again, I started out, actually I did the exact same thing. I started out with some stockinette, did some texture, cables, lace. Now, in the smaller swatch, the texture is cool and it can bring, I think it would be great. Because of how open the stitches are in this, the texture, it really almost disappears. I mean, it's there and I would definitely use texture, but again, nothing pictorial, nothing where you really need to be able to discern the actual texture as a pattern. It just is going to bring some interest to it. And from the back, it's the same. And the same thing that happened to the texture happened with our cables to an extent. Because they're more open, they're going to lay flatter. And you don't have even as much as a pop as you did with the number 1. It's still there. And you know what? I wouldn't not do cables. The cables don't disappear. But because of the sheen and because of the structure of the yarn, they're not going to be like crazy, like Aran popping uppy type cables. But I think they're beautiful. And the movement, look at the shine on this. The movement of the stitches makes them catch the light in different ways. So it is super pretty now, but where this larger swatch really, really shines is in the lace. Look how beautiful that is. The silk holds it just perfectly. And again, the softness of the camel does not interfere with the lace. It just shines and the silk is gonna hold these super, super open. It's just beautiful. I would 100% use this for a lace shawl. It would be absolutely gorgeous. But I also think because it doesn't have super, super high stitch definition, you could get away with doing some color work in this, but I don't know that I do it at a size 5. I do it but you don't necessarily have to go down to a 1. Somewhere in the middle, you could definitely get away with color work. And that is the Swatch Lab Mad Science portion of the program. I hope you found it informative about this beautiful yarn, Bijou Basin Ranch. Let's see, I have a little information about them. They have been around since 2005, and they raise yak. I know I mentioned the yak. The yak cracked me up with their big giant horns. It says it's operated yak ranch situated in the open plains of eastern Colorado, 60 miles southeast of Denver, which I just think imagining yak out there is incredibly funny. And they do, as I mentioned, all kinds of interesting luxury fibers that are out of the ordinary. All of their yarns, they're made in the United States as well as abroad, and a lot of them are hand dyed. It's pretty yarn. I haven't had any yarn from them that I haven't enjoyed knitting with. They give me a pronunciation guide for Bijou. I probably should have looked at that before, but hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly. So I would love to hear if you have other yarns. You know, the yarns don't even have to be new to me. If you have another yarn you'd like me to take a look at and run through the paces of Swatch Lab, please let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up, click that like, and if you would like to be notified whenever I upload a new video, please subscribe to my channel and select notifications. Thank you so much.